Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name's Caleb Deloach, but today I'm joined by
Ty
a
Crowden.
very special guest here, Mr. Ty Crowden. Ty, you're an assistant coach at Jackson for the track team. I know you've been around this area a long time, done a lot, track and field, a lot of other sports you've been involved with a long time. So, we'll just start with that. What's kind of your background in sports, yourself, just playing-wise, growing up?
For sure. Growing up, born and raised in Jackson, me and my brothers always got in as many sports as we could, all the youth sports growing up, and went up through school and had the opportunity to run some track in high school, played some football at Jackson, which was, it was just a great experience, an experience like no other, I feel like. Yeah. But really enjoyed my time at Jackson. I was blessed to be able to run at SEMO for some time, and got done there. Actually went originally for the hurdles, right, and then they transitioned me to the decathlon after a couple years, and had a lot of fun with that. Right out of SEMO, I started coaching at Cape. Right,
but so we'll rewind here first. So when you were at Jackson, what all did you do event-wise?
For sure, yeah. Jackson, I did the 110 hurdles, 300 hurdles. They usually plug me in on the 4x4. Yeah. That was about it.
Okay.
About it. Yeah.
And then at SEMO, you said you went to hurdle, and they got you into the multi-events, right?
That's right.
What kind of, what led to that switch over for you or the coaching staff, whichever one kind of made that?
Yeah, no, move? It was collaborative. My coach at the time, Chris Navarro, he actually helps coach at Prep Athletics. Last I knew, with Blake Smith up there. Phenomenal coach. We always were able to be really transparent with each other, and high hurdles weren't going as good as I would have liked at the time. And when you're traveling and then you run for 8 seconds, 9 seconds, and then you're traveling back, it can kind of be a little grueling. So I think we were up at Indiana at an indoor meet, maybe my sophomore year, and I was like, hey, we were watching the multi. I was like, I could do that.
I love the confidence.
I had no idea if I actually could or not, but we were just kind of talking going on. And so he let me grab a pole vault pole at practice. I think the next practice after that.
It's the safest thing to start with.
Yeah. He said he didn't give me any coaching. He said, you've got 15 minutes to figure out how to get over this bar. I don't know if it's 7.5, 8 feet, something like that. I never touched a pole before. So he said, you got 15 minutes to figure it out. If you can do that, then we'll work on it. So I got over the bar, and he said, all right, let's do it.
What year did you do that? Did you switch?
I switched at the end of my sophomore year.
Okay.
So basically I had, say 2 full years.
Yeah, 2 more years of doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you don't have to be too humble here. You did get what? Where'd you finish at by your career? You got 5th place in the OVC?
I ended up, my senior season, I took 3rd.
You took 3rd in the OVC? Okay. I saw different things there. Yeah. Cool. But yeah. So what all, let's do indoor first is what? The heptathlon?
Indoors the hep.
Heptathlon? All right. So what events do you do in heptathlon indoor?
Hep would have been, you start off.
This is a quiz.
It's been a couple of years. You start off with the 60 hurdles. You're going to go long jump, high jump, and shot put. And you'll come back the next day. No, I said that wrong. You're going to start off 60 dash, long jump, high jump, shot put, come back second day. And I think we did 60 hurdles. What else do we do? And where am I at?
Like there's a finite amount.
It's been a couple of years. And then you finish with the 1,000.
Okay.
What did I say? 60, long, high. Oh, vault's in there. That's what I'm missing. Vault's day 2.
And an outdoor
day 2,
decathlon, you got 10 events.
10 events, yeah. So I know that one.
You know this one. I believe in you.
So that one's 100 meters, long, high, shot, and then you finish day 1 with the 400.
Okay.
Then you come back. You're going to go 110 hurdles. You're going to, this order may be a little off, but you're going to go vault, discus, javelin, and you finish with the 1,500.
It's a brutal way to finish. They're mean to you.
Yeah.
What's that like? Like what's that mentally like or physically like? trying to manage, like you said, you went from, I'm going to go run for 10 seconds to like, I'm about to go run here, and I'm going to go throw something, then I'm about to go jump over here, and I'm going to run some more. What was that like, mental and physical kind of transition like for you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be different for different people. For me, mentally, I think it was probably a little smoother. Because if I'm having a bad day with the hurdles, then I'm going to go pole vault.
It's immediately something to try to fix it.
If I'm having a bad day and I need to step away from the vault, I can go throw shot put or something like that. So I think getting away from things can be good. Otherwise, you're just practice being average or even bad. Practicing doing that. So I think it was healthy to step away when I was struggling with something. And then I always found that whenever I finally came back to it, I kind of level jumped. I just needed a break. So physically, there's no way around it. It's just tough.
It's just tough, especially like you said, especially closing out 1,500 and closing out like 400 first day too. Also brutal.
Yeah. A little soreness coming back day two. You got to fight through. So.
And what was the training kind of difference like? Like how do you manage, like you said, going from 1 or 2 events to going to 10 of them?
For sure. We just tried to train a solid base, strength and speed, some plyometric work, things like that. We just felt like if we could get a solid base of strength and athleticism, then we could kind of focus on some skill acquisition for each event. But nothing too specific. It's just staying generally fit and athletic, and then
working on a little bit of the technique here and there whenever. Okay. So that's where you were at. So Ty was good at hurdles in high school, and also he's on 4x4 team with some studs too at times too. You ran with Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon.
That was probably the team right there. Whenever you were with Brandon,
Calvin Lysell,
you and Brandon, Calvin. I know Logan was there like my senior year, and it was like Brandon, Logan, Calvin.
Ended up being, I don't know if you remember Gabriel Dudley.
Dudley
ran a great split.
He was a good one.
Yeah.
So you start out there, go to SEMO, do the multi events. So you graduate. We'll get to there now. So where, was coaching kind of something and teaching, coaching, all that kind of something you felt like you were going to do for a long time, something you had really had your mind on for a long time, or was that kind of a gradual thing?
When I went to SEMO, I made my mind up I was going to major physical education. So did that, and when you're done competing, it's like the passion and drive has to be turned to something.
Right.
So for me, that was coaching. I probably get just as much out of, if not more, out of coaching and seeing success for my athletes as I did when I was competing. So that's been really rewarding. Like I said a while ago, I started off at Cape Central. Taught at Cape, called Central Academy over there. I taught 4 years there. And I coached football and track. I even did girls basketball for a little bit.
Nice.
And had a great time over there. Great time. I was around some great kids, great coaches. Had some great experiences there. So that's kind of where I started off.
Okay. And then you got for that Cape, what year did you start at Cape? Do you remember?
Exactly. I graduated 2019 would have been my first year there, fall of 2019.
That's a heck of a time to start then. Going right into COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's brutal. So you started at Cape. What was that? What was that experience like as a lifelong Jacksonian? You mentioned ahead of time. What was that transition like?
Absolutely. So I was finishing up school, and me and my buddy Clay Collier, he goes to church here at Connection Point. Yep. And we were kind of figuring out, hey, where can we get in? Where can we get a job? Where can we coach and teach, and so on and so forth. Cape had a position for me actually at their alternative school, Central Academy, and they were going to let me coach. I was actually finishing up school, so I still had student teaching left to go. But they let me kind of train. They said you can do your student teaching here and then just stay here for a job as well. So I was like, oh, that's perfect, close to home. And I just went with it and ended up loving it. Great experiences there.
So you did some girls basketball. What position did you coach in football?
Football, I did wide receivers and ended up doing some running backs as well.
Running backs. Mm-hmm. Who did you guys have? I was like, what did you? kind of who'd you guys have over there at that? You had like was Tyrus Redden there?
Tyrus was. Well, we used him at running back and some slot.
Yeah,
and then running backs, Coach Tyree Jackson. And
because there Cam
Harris.
There's a good team. Yeah, the Harris boys.
Cam Harris is over there. Yeah,
Cam Harris is a stud. Yeah. So then you go from Cape, and then you came over to back home to Jackson, right?
I actually, before I did that, I actually had a year up at Perryville.
You went to Perryville?
Went to Perryville.
Okay.
I was up there for a year. Coached pole vault. Had my vaulter up there, Katie. She actually broke the school record.
Wow.
And she may have been the first vaulter there. You'll have to fact check me. First vaulter at Perryville to go to state.
Yeah.
There may have been one more, but I was only up there for a year, so my Perryville history is a
little rough on the Pirates history.
But yeah, we'd have to double check that. I think that might be the case though.
Yeah. So okay, well that's cool. So yeah, that's kind of another reason I wanted to have you on, not just to keep pumping this full of Jackson people, which I don't mind doing, but is because you've worked at a lot of different places, and you have a varied background as far as like what you've been into up to this point. So.
Even more so,
a lot of different sports, a lot of different places.
Even more so between Perryville and Jackson, I was actually doing water slide maintenance and inspections for theme parks.
There you go.
Yeah, so like Great Wolf Lodge, Six Flags, things like that.
That's interesting.
So another little side note, that to add to the varied.
All the different places. Ty, where in the world is Ty Crowden here? So now. You were at Jackson. What all roles do you have at Jackson right now?
So at Jackson, I'm up at the high school.
Okay.
I supervise ISS, so the school suspension. Get to talk to the kids.
Tough crew to work with sometimes.
Well, yeah, get to talk to not bad kids, just made some poor decisions, and get to talk to them about their decisions and how we can do a little bit better next time around. So it's good stories there too. Lots of fun. Lots of fun, and coaching track at Jackson. So
what group do you work with? A specific group at Jackson, or how do they have you guys kind of parsed out?
So Coach Gross, our head coach, actually went about splitting groups up a little bit different this year than what they've done in the past. For the most part, guys and girls are separate.
Okay.
I work with 200, 400, 4x2, and 4x4. I get some help from Coach McDowell. For the relays as well. So he helps out there. And then I also, so I just said 200, 400, 4x2, 4x4, and then I do 300 hurdles.
Okay.
And then Coach McDowell does one, helps out with 2, and then he does the 110 hurdles. 110 hurdles. So we kind of have a split like that. Now with the hurdles, we do guys and girls together. Yeah. That's one of the few events we do like that.
Okay. So that's cool. Yeah. And there's a lot of familiar names still from, I know whenever I was in high school, Coach McDowell was there, and Coach Gross was technically my sprint coach. I think back then he did the 100, the 200, probably not the 400. I think that was Coach Walker kind of took control. Walker, he just wanted to be in charge of Brandon. Was the only reason he just wanted to claim Brandon as his prize people.
He's a good one to claim.
Yeah, exactly. And I know, and that's kind of so my basis of what's good at Jackson is I was the same age as Brandon Wright, so I got to watch Brandon from about 5 to 10 meters behind, run his entire high school career. Yeah. Had a great vantage point of him finishing a lot of races.
Front row seat.
Yeah, had a front row seat. a few meters back every race, more than a few.
Well, you're not the only one.
Most people in Southeast Missouri had that same view. So that's kind of my viewpoint as we kind of get into some of these guys later. Some of these guys that are over there now, is I'm like, this is the benchmark in my mind of like a guy that's a stud. Like he's sub 11 in the 100. He was breaking 50 in the 400, and he was anchoring the 4x4. So I that was always my benchmark. And now to see some of the guys you have over there,
oh my goodness,
putting up crazy numbers
just across the state. I mean,
there's so many kids nowadays.
Yeah, it's got so competitive. Just kids are getting better. Training's getting better.
Yeah,
recovery's getting. We're getting smarter.
Getting smarter.
We can't just keep driving kids into the ground. Right. They gotta recover well, sleep well, nutrition.
You don't have them in a track meet every 4 days and practicing every day in between.
Ideally not.
Yeah.
And kids are just getting faster. So it's you mentioned Brandon, and this is not a knock on him or anything like that. Brandon was really fast. I think he went, I want to say 49.3.
Yeah.
was his best.
Yeah, and back then, like I said,
school.
that was like the record. And it was like,
very good.
This is unbelievable.
Very
and then like,
good.
and then
well, he took third in state.
Yeah,
third in state.
Yeah.
There was a kid that went 48.7 in sectional 2 this year that didn't even go to state.
Unbelievable. It's crazy.
Crazy.
Some of the numbers in like districts and sectionals that aren't getting through these days.
Crazy.
It's crazy. And that was what I was going to ask you about next. Is kind of, you've been around now, and like, what is, in your opinion, kind of, we'll stick with track here. Just what is kind of the area? How is the area doing? And you can talk about the whole state because you've seen a lot now. But what is kind of the pulse of Southeast Missouri when it comes to track right now? Is it, from where we were at, is it they going up, some events, some down? What are your kind of opinion of it?
Across events, we're more competitive across the board. Even, I think I've been out of school 10 years now, so since I was in school, it's got a lot more competitive.
I didn't want to bring up I'm not going to bring up any times in particular, but I did go back. There are records. We're not going to talk about the records of what we used to look of how fast we ran, but I did look at like Ty won the SEMO conference, I think in the 110 and maybe the 300 your senior year. I think you might have won the SEMO conference meet. Yeah. And then I looked at your time and then like what, the kid like, or what like Trenton Powell and the Slack kid at Poplar Bluff are running these days. And I'm like,
man, they're cruising those 110s right now.
What are these kids doing? This is incredible. But yeah. So like, what's kind of your opinion on these kids we have nowadays?
Yeah. Super competitive. We're getting very competitive in the 110s right now, specifically. 400, obviously we're doing a good job. We do have our 400 runners at Jackson, but Bluff has Landon Deaton, who's running really well. They've got a couple other low 50, high 49 guys there too, so very competitive. Cape has a great 400 runner, Demarion Williams, I believe his name is, coming up. So. And then, it's just getting more and more competitive across the board. Vault is very strong, which Vault's been strong in Southeast Missouri, but Vault's still very strong. Jumps are kind of getting up there a little bit. Got some jumpers. Sometimes it's hard when you get up to the St. Louis, Kansas City areas, you're competing with them, or even out west, Springfield, Joplin area. But we're starting to hold our own pretty good in the jumps. Especially Bluff. Bluff always has good jumpers down there. So, and then throws. I think you talked about maybe on your last episode, you're talking about Husky, and you've got Shin at Jackson, and we've got our guy in the discus too. So we're, and then Zeke Hall was throwing really well. So, we're across the board really. It's just we're starting to level up a little bit. Yeah. And you get to different schools around the state, and they know who you are now. Yeah. They're familiar with some of the names from schools in Southeast Missouri.
It is cool to see, like you said, like some of the guys. I mean, obviously, Jackson, I have a vested interest in, and then but a lot of other schools in the area are doing pretty good things. Like, I mean, Notre Dame, there always feels like they have great distance runners every year, and they have the same thing. They have, I think, two freshmen that both went to, a girl and a boy that went to state this year. Yeah. Who are some kids, outside of just Jackson that have, you maybe know personally or trained with personally, or have caught your attention kind of just in our region down here?
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Patrick Slack. He's doing a really good job on the 110s, and then ran the 300s well also. I think he's like 14-0, 14-1 in the 110s. And I got to watch him at Kansas Relays. And a lot of people don't know this, but I think he would have won that race. He might have clipped hurdle 8 or 9. And went 14 low. I think he was going to break 14 that race.
Yeah, I think because I think the top three all were like 14.0 something.
And he was right there. He looked like he was going to win it.
Yeah.
So I think he would have been below 14 with a clean finish, but I think he ended up 39 in the threes.
Yeah, he was 39 something.
39. You mentioned Powell. Powell's doing really well. He just went down and ran well down at Great Southwest in Albuquerque. Went down with us there. And
now, do you work with him at all?
I do not.
You do not? Okay.
No, I haven't. I was down there with him.
You're just down there with him. Okay.
But I've not worked with him. Warren Eanes, Maya Farrar have done a good job with the 300 hurdles specifically at Cape. Warren had an unfortunate finish this year. Those are actually a couple of the ones that I used to work with when I was at Cape.
Okay.
He had an unfortunate finish. He fell in the 300s at districts, but man, he was running well and in good shape, and Maya the same way. So, Aaliyah Jackson is running really well at Cape, and then Raji Riley, the freshman,
she's a monster.
Oh my
so
goodness.
fast. Like you said, like 14, 15 years old.
Yeah. Now I actually got to coach her older sister a little bit. When I was at Cape, Kai Bogan.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't know that relation. Yeah.
No,
yeah. She was a monster, and like she comes from a crazy family of athletes.
It's in the family. So. Yeah, it's in the family. They got some speed there.
That makes sense then. This is all connecting now perfectly. Yeah. I'm like, who is this freshman girl that is
she can roll
unbelievably fast? Yeah,
she can roll.
That makes sense.
So those are a couple of the other ones. I know I'm leaving some people out. I know Spencer Nunn didn't get to compete a whole lot this year, but great athlete down at Poplar Bluff. Sykeston had some good athletes down there.
Chris Artis won state title in the jump. So, that's one team that used to kind of put the fear of God into people. I know back in the day a little bit. I want to see Sykeston be a little bit better. I know it kind of comes in waves at times. I know there's been years where like Jackson's whole team as a whole hasn't been as impressive and things like that. But I do want to see Sykeston get better because it used to show up. They'd have the big. I don't know what they look like anymore. They used to have the big S on their chest, the Superman logo on their track jerseys. It was fun. You always knew it was going to be a tough day. You had to run against those guys in the 100 and the 200 and things like that.
Absolutely. So. No, they've got some great records down there. They got some good coaches down there right now. Yeah. And it'll start to come back. You start to get some of the football, basketball guys out. Yeah. You're going to get your sprinters and jumpers rolling. Man, they've had some really good relays. Yeah. It seems like when we were going through. Yeah,
because that was they had the Sykeston like Twilight Relay event there back. I know back then we were in school. So.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a school in general. We're just getting off track here, but I was just telling somebody the other day. I was like, there was a point in time when I was in high school where it was like Cape, Jackson, Poplar Bluff. Like if any of them beat each other in any sport, it was like not a surprise. Or Sykeston, Cape Jackson, Sykeston, Poplar Bluff. If any of them beat each other in football or something, it's like, oh wow, but that was a good game or something. Yeah. Now it's just like there's a lot of separation. It feels like between the top and the bottom at times, but I hope to see some of those schools kind of keep improving. And like you said, Poplar Bluff has stayed pretty consistent in what they do on the track. They're always good in jumps. I feel like they always have. I don't know about this year, but I feel like they always have a good pole vaulter or two, and then. Like you said, now they have the Deaton kid is running pretty consistently 50 below 50. So
and they're just so and I think he actually went 48, 48.6, something in there. They're just so deep. It's like they can plug somebody in, and it's like they don't really take a hit. Right. They're just so deep. When we kind of start to strategize how we're going to fill different events up to win the conference meet. We spent a lot of time working on that. I mean, you gotta really consider Bluff, especially. They got a squad.
Yeah,
they got a squad for sure.
They're very tough. Yeah. So we talked about everybody else. So let's get to your boys and girls over there at Jackson. This year's team was really, just really impressive overall. I would say it was a deep team. Felt like you guys had people in all events that were competitive in every meet that you guys went to. You took, I don't remember how many exact kids, but I think it was 8 events of people in girls' side, 5 events on the boys' side, 2 state. So, you guys had a really, really good team who were, so we'll get to some of the people, some of the better ones here in a minute, but who are some people that may be surprised? And a lot of those kids were young too. We talked about, Blayne Reagan, the sophomore, Amelia Fox finished 5th in state. She's a freshman. Yeah. You got freshmen and sophomores, stuff like that all over the team. For
sure. And our 4x1, our guys 4x1 was young. Everyone's coming back. Yeah. So I don't know that I'd say any surprises just because you see the kids at practice, you see the work they're putting in, you see kind of the progress they're making throughout the season. So, it's, that they're definitely capable of competing at that level. Yeah. There's some that we that were right on the chopping block, right at the sectional meet. It's like, hey, you got to do, if you want to keep going, we're going to have to do pretty well here.
And a lot of those guys and girls coming back, they were finishing 5th, 6th right there in the sectional. So there was a lot, like you said, on the chopping block that didn't even make it to state. They're right around that.
And it's such a tough sectional. Such a tough sectional. you go against some pretty tough schools up
Yeah.
there for sure.
Like a sectionals, you're going against, at least on the boys side, I know like CBC's up there,
Yeah.
SLU's up there,
Yeah,
something like
Eureka's up
that.
there,
Eureka.
Yeah.
That's a very tough section. But yeah, so you guys have all the names here pulled up. So you guys had a ton go to state. So you don't work as much with the girls, you said, right?
Girls 300s
Girls
is
300,
300 hurdles. That's the extent of what I'm doing there.
Yeah, so I mean, you had, just looking at all these, where they finished here, you had Emerson Gross came in 5th in the discus, 11th in the shot put. Kat Ellison in the javelin came in 10th. Amelia Fox 6th. I mentioned the pole vault. Brooklyn Williams came in 10th in the long jump. The 4x8 went up and got 14th. Emma Niedbalski got 14th. Annika Barks got 4th in the 32.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys had a loaded, especially girls side, pretty impressive. Like the girls this year were really, really rocking.
Very competitive. Very competitive. Something interesting with Emmy Groves. She just started throwing discs this year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So picked it up. I think, she didn't want to run the 400 and they said, okay, well, we need to do another event. I said, well, I'll try the disc. So
it's also pretty convincing when your dad's
that
doesn't hurt.
Picked up the disc and started rolling and took what would we say 5th in the state?
Yeah, 5th in the state. That's a pretty good way to start throwing a discus your first year.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah. Also, that's a wild like split. She was going to run the 400 and throw discus throw shot.
And she's just an athlete.
That's athleticism. I would say that's athleticism. I don't understand,
especially
personally.
at the Class 5 level.
That's crazy.
That doesn't happen. I think something similar happened with the shot put last year, though. When she went to state for shot last year.
Yeah,
had never thrown shot. Picked the shot up and started. She's
crazy.
got such a high ceiling.
Really,
when she really dedicates some time to it in the off season and things like that. There's no telling what she's capable of, really.
And kind of like we talked about, I know. Emmy Gross is graduating, but I know the Ellison girls back, Fox is back, Williams is back, and some of the 4x8 girls I know are back too. So same thing we talked about. Like you guys are going to be bringing back so much talent. And then on the boys' side, you had Bryson Wessel up at state. You got 9th in the discus, Ryan Larry in the high jump, Blayne Reagan in the 1 and the 4, and Barrett in the 4, and then the 4x1 went up there as well too. So and then once again, Bryson's back, the Reagans are back. That everybody in the 4x1, 4x2 will be back because those, once again, you got Evan Turley, Jalen Hampton, Memphis Maddox. They're all can just able to drive themselves to practice this season. Absolutely. You have an insane crew, especially the sprinters. I feel like you guys the sprints are pretty good right now. It's with Hampton, Maddox, and then obviously the Reagans as well. And Turley.
For sure, yeah, they're doing a good job. They're in the weight room. A lot of them play football as well, so they're in the weight room. Coach emphasizes flying 10s, 20s, 30s, so that really helps us a lot. Yeah, kind of builds that base for us to work with when we get to the spring. Then it's just kind of making some minor changes as far as angles and patterns and things like that. So, they put in a lot of work and it paid off for them. Yeah, it was. Like I said, it was a fun season. Yeah. Excited to have them all back and compete at a high level again next year.
And then, it doesn't hurt that you have somebody, I guess we can shout them out right now. Instead of doing it at the end of the show, Bryson Wessel. Doesn't hurt that you have a 6'5", 260-pound future, congratulations, Iowa State
that's right.
Cyclone,
That's right. I saw that.
Going to play football, play defensive line that he just started playing on the varsity this year. And mid-season, they're like, oh, hey, we need help in the run. We need help stopping the run. Hey, why don't you flip over there? It's okay. Now I'll go get 50 D1 offers in football and do that. And also get 4th in state in wrestling.
For sure.
That kid, like I said, you don't work with him as much, probably hands-on, but freaking nature athlete.
He's a machine, man. And he's so dedicated, so you love to see him having that kind of success and getting the recognition and things like that. Man, he puts a lot into it, and I'm excited to see him get a lot out of it too. Yeah. I was excited to see him commit to Iowa State.
Yeah, great program.
Yeah, absolutely. He'll do a great job up there.
Yeah, and then, we've mentioned a lot of names here, but a couple of kids that you get to work with personally a lot, that's probably makes your job a lot easier, is the Reagan brothers, Barrett and Blayne. Barrett was a junior, going to be a senior, and Blayne, sophomore, going to be a junior. we'll just start with what's it like? What separates kind of those two kids from, like we said, they were my model of success. Brandon Wright going to state, getting third, running 49. It's like, this is an incredible number here at Jackson. Like, I know nobody else is getting sub 50. And then, I think Barrett ran sub 50 as a freshman, maybe, or sophomore, and then Blayne is
right around there. Yeah,
Blayne is now hitting 46. Yeah. Like those numbers don't. Like the first time I saw it, I was just like, this doesn't even compute in my brain for a kid here at Jackson to be doing that. Yeah. What are those kids like? Like, what's it like? What's separating them from a lot of people?
Oh, man, they're great kids, and they work hard and they reap the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Really, obviously we have those two, but all of my group that I have the opportunity to work with, everyone's just putting in a lot of work, and we're getting to see a lot of improvement. It was kind of tough deciding who was going to get the most improved award this year, just because everyone had just worked their tail off.
Yeah.
And everyone had really level jumped throughout the season. So it's awesome working with all of those kids. But, Blayne, you asked about Blayne and Barrett. They're great kids, come from a great family. They're yes sir, no sir when you're talking to them, and they're willing to do the little things that maybe some kids across the state aren't, and they're that's kind of why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Yeah.
I can't take all the credit for it. They obviously they're fast before I was working with them. They're going to be fast after, but there's some little things that we got to manipulate and
I got bored and got on Mile Split earlier and was like, let's just click on like Blayne Reagan's profile. It's like, oh, this kid ran 11.1 in middle school. I'm like, okay, never mind. Yeah. This is freak. This kid's just a freak. Okay, that doesn't hurt. Just having God-given athleticism a little bit.
Yeah, and he absolutely. He and they've been surrounded with great coaches. Junior high, Coach Chunig had him in junior high, and so they came to me, and when we're doing drills and stuff like that, really, a lot of people ask what makes them so fast. Mm-hmm. They run correctly.
Yeah.
They're mechanically, they're some of the best runners that I've seen at the high school level.
Really?
And so they can even beat some kids that may be a little bit more talented than them just because they're running correctly.
Yeah.
And that's something that starts at a young age, and you can grow that a little bit, but they've been doing that right for a while.
Yeah.
So that definitely makes a difference.
Yeah.
It makes a difference when you're applying force at the right angles and things like that. It makes
and
a difference for
that's
sure.
stuff that, nobody thinks about is part of track. Like, if you just ask maybe the random person on the street, like, oh, what makes a good 100-meter runner or 200-meter runner? It's just like, I don't know. They're fast. They have strong lower body and they're fast. It's like, and then, like I said, you coming from a higher level and obviously coaching these kids, it's like, there's so many like little details that, nobody would imagine have to go into making a great runner, because that's kind of what you talked about, kind of what separates, this kid from being good, maybe making state by just being a freak athlete, to being, a state champion now, like they are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like I said, they're going to work hard. They're not dodging work or anything like that. So when you combine talent and hard work, and somebody that's willing to do the little things right and trust the process, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah. So. And it was, their progression, both of them throughout the year. Like I said, Barrett's a year older. So I remember just seeing him pop up, just be like, I guess probably, I know he ran pretty well as a freshman. And then as a sophomore, it's just like, oh, there's a kid. I'm like, this kid, like meet number 1 of the season, just went sub 50. I was I'm like, this kid just broke Brandon Wright's 400 record. I'm like, what? And then it's like, oh, now he's running 48. I'm like, who are these people? And then the next year it's like, or that year it's like, oh, there's another guy also named Reagan that's also like a half second behind him. Like,
that's right.
And then, this year I just pulled up their numbers earlier. Their PRs, you got Barrett running 10.83 in the 100, 22.42 in the 200, 47.76, which I think he ran. That was a state final, I think, is what he ran. 47.76.
So he went 47.9 in the state final.
47.9. Did he do that in Albuquerque?
Albuquerque, he went 47.7. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then, I mean, just.
And the 22.4, that's that's not really fair to him because he ran that at
the
beginning of the season.
Yeah, he ran that at like Festus, I think, where it was rain. It was like rainy.
He's a pretty good amount faster than that.
Yeah.
But
also, I mean, my only question of the entire Jackson track and field season, or it could have, I don't know, there could be a good explanation that I don't know the answer to because I'm not there. Why were neither of them in the running individual 200s at like districts or sectional?
That's a great question. That's a fair question. Different states have different orders of events.
Yeah.
In Missouri, the 200 is after the 4.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
That being said, Blayne, for example, we had a conversation going into the postseason. It's like, hey, what is our goal here? Are we trying to get up on the podium as many times as possible? Or are we wanting to just, cut the fat and go for something high up there? What do we want to do? And I left it completely up to him. And he said, no, I want to try to get as high as I can in the 4. I said, okay, that's
that was probably his best chance too.
For sure.
Do what he did, which was win a state title. Because I know he ran 21.4.9 is what his PR is this year, and I think he only ran a couple 200s maybe this year. But yeah, and so I know that there was some dudes in the 200, like the Collins kid up from Kansas City, freaking nature. But
Moss was in there. I think did Moss end up?
I think he won it. Yeah, and I mean both those guys are running 20 something too. So
great athletes. No, Blayne could have, and Barrett too could have definitely been in the conversation there for the podium. But we kind of wanted to send it on the 4, and
that decision looked like it worked out all right.
It worked out all right.
Oh, it worked out all right. So we fast forward there to state finals. I think they were in the same qualifying heat. I think they went 1-2 qualifying in their heat, right. And I think the Moss kid maybe split them like overall. I don't remember, but I think they went 1-2 in their own heat, and then get to the final. Where were you at? Where are you at as a coach for like the state final and stuff like that? Where are you located?
Yeah, so I'm down a little bit or around the track, but in the stands as well. I mean, usually one of Coach Walker's old sayings is, "Hey, hay's in the barn." Yeah. So don't mess it up. Yeah. So at that point, basically the boys know what they need to do. Right. I just need to stay out of the way and let them do their thing. Make sure they're hydrating, eating, things like that. But and maybe a little bit of time management. But outside of that, my job's pretty well done. So I'm up in the stands for most of that track meeting.
Okay. So that final then, what was that like watching for you? Just your perspective, being in the stadium. Obviously knowing these kids, being their hands-on coach every day. Like Blayne is good start. You have the Moss kid from Hickman that's in there. Mm-hmm. He's run 47 low, and then it's probably. I mean, it's him and Blayne. Both sophomores probably are the favorites. You got Barrett in the lane next to Blayne. So they're like from 4 and 5.
He was
4 and 3, 3 and 4. Where they were at?
He might have been 3 and 4, I believe.
So you've got your guys right there in the middle of the track. Another stud there from Hickman and Moss. So what was that? What was that whole 48-7 seconds for you like?
Yeah, it was exciting for sure. Yeah. It was, what makes the story even better is what happened 25 minutes before the race. I think you mentioned it on your last podcast that we false started the 4x1. Yeah, and obviously everyone was excited to be in the finals. We weren't really expecting to be ranked high, among the state in the 4x1. When we got up there, we even had a conversation: do we run it or not? But we ran it, made the finals. Yeah, unfortunately, false started. So people were upset. There's several of us upset, several of the athletes upset, and that was just right before the Open 400 because those events are back to back. So we kind of we knew that Barrett and Blayne were going to be in the 400 right after that happened. Kind of got them away, took them off in the woods down there, and we just did some breathing exercises, just tried to breathe it out, just to reset our focus a little bit. And I told them, I said, hey, look, everyone screws up. I said, losers stay in the rut, champions come back. And, man, they came back.
They did.
They came back well. So They went to go check in. I went up with my wife, who was up there at the state meet, getting the blocks, and we knew Moss was fast.
Yeah.
We knew he was fast.
He's a stud.
We had been kind of wondering why. I believe he was injured throughout the middle of the season, but we'd kind of been watching his times after he came back from injury, and it was like, here he comes.
Yeah, he's rolling.
He's coming.
He was rolling.
Back. He went 47.9 as a freshman last year.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So, we knew he was capable of something good. Then we saw in the prelims, he was like 47 mid.
Yeah.
47 mid in the prelims. And so I knew we were going to have to run really well.
Yeah.
Really well. Told Blayne and Barrett that he was going to get out quick on that first two. We watched him in the prelims, kind of how he structured his race, and he did. I think he came through the 200 like 21.7, 21.8.
Yeah.
And so I said, you're going to have to get out and go with him,
You can't leave up too much work to do.
We had some work to do in that home stretch. But, he takes off and he gets out quick. Blayne and Barrett are tracking him pretty good, but gets closer to that 200 mark, and it looks like Moss is starting to pull. You've seen the video, but around the curves, I'm videoing the race. I'm like, oh gosh, this is not looking too good. And I think Blayne's down probably 10 meters on that 300.
Yeah. Because on the videos, I posted it on our Facebook page, like the announcers starting to anoint John Moss as he hits the last 100, and it's like, oh, here he goes. He's finally. I think.
Well, shoot, they're about to anoint him.
No offense to the kid. No offense to any of these people, because this is a big moment, and you're about to get off a sick call, being like, John Moss has realized his potential. And there's Blayne Reagan.
Started to reel him in,
and Reagan won. No, okay, never mind. Never mind. Ignore what I just said.
It was kind of interesting because it sounded like he was. They were going to anoint him before the race even started.
Because they were like, Hickman hasn't had their first 400-meter runner or champion since 1979.
But they knew this. They knew he was fast. They knew what to expect. So, we're videoing, watching the race as they come down the home stretch, and they're chipping away on the home stretch, and they cross the line, and I didn't know. Yeah,
I was like, I don't think anybody besides the timer knew who won that one.
And so we're all just glued to the screen, and some people are saying, yeah, he got him. Some people are like, I don't think
that had to be the most nerve-wracking, 0.5 seconds of your life, just waiting for who pops up first on the screen.
It felt like an hour that popped up that he leaned him at the line, and it was exciting.
Yeah. I mean, first state champion as a boy in a running event since Mario Whitney, I think, 2002.
Right? Yeah.
So it's pretty good company to be in when it comes to being fast. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's a heck of a season for Blayne. I mean, we mentioned earlier, it felt like he PR'd, especially like in the 400. I think he PR'd almost every race this season. I remember the one that got my attention, obviously, was up at Festus, where him and Barrett both ran. They went 1-2, and he broke 48. I went 47.9 up at Festus, and it was like, I was just like, 47? Yeah. This is crazy. And then to get to 47, whatever, 0.04, I think is what he finished in the finals. Yeah. I mean, just an incredible season. Just like you said, chipping away every single meet. Yeah. Just, it's like 47.8, 47.6. And because I think I don't remember if it was at Festus, if it was at Kansas Relays, they interviewed him. He's like, yeah, I really think I can get, 47 low by the end of the season. I'm like, that's a long way to go, man. Yeah. I don't know. I'm like, are you sure you're going to try and get 47 low? And then he's nearly breaking into 46s by the time he
we're expecting something pretty quick up at Festus that weekend. They hadn't ran the Open 4, but they did run the 4x4 at Notre Dame the week before. Okay. And we had some pretty hot splits on them. So we expected something pretty good there. Getting down, obviously, 46.9 for Blayne, 47.7 at the end of the season for Barrett. I think from where Blayne finished, from where Barrett finished last season, he's about a second faster. Yeah. So I mean that's a pretty big jump.
That's insane, and
and an even bigger jump. Blayne finished the year last year at 48.9 and ended at 46.9 this year.
Insane.
So it's
that's not normal.
That's a lot.
That's not normal jump by any means.
That's a big jump. So hopefully we can keep keep knocking that time down a little bit. I think there's some goals there that they've got.
Oh yeah.
That I think Quincy Hall, Olympic champion, was 46.8.
Yeah.
I think Justin Robinson, the state meet, was 46.3.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, anybody watching, they said it on the broadcast, if I remember right, for the state championship. They're like, this is I think it was the 7th fastest time maybe in the state of Missouri in the 400. Like,
I think 7th fastest time, but it may have been the 5th fastest person.
5th fastest person. Yeah. Cause there's a couple, and it was like, if you go to the Misha website, look up the record and who has like the top 10 in the 400.
There's good
some pretty good runners in there. Like you said, Quincy Hall, that guy just won a gold medal in the 400 meters at Paris this past Olympics. Everybody else on there was running in the finals of the NCAA track and field meets. Some of them were running, professionally, Diamond
Charles
League,
Jones
whatever. Yeah. Like the lowest like level of athlete there was like running at Arizona State and then like winning the Pac-10. So
yeah,
it's a pretty good company right now.
Not to mention, Moss is coming back, so they'll get to keep battling a little bit. And
then we can talk about it with having Blayne and Barrett sleeping in the same house. But like how important or how big of a factor do you think it is like having a brother who you can kind of push each other with, and then also having rivals across the state now at this point that it's like measuring against each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's super important. Obviously there's a healthy rivalry between the two brothers, and a lot of people don't know there's another brother.
I was never going to interrupt and say this earlier, but I was like, can we get? I mean, baseball's fun, Brock, but like, can we just get out on the track?
Yeah,
let's go put together a crazy team here.
So I told us, hey, we'll share. We'll share. But getting 3 Reagans on the same relay would be really
fun.
Cool. If he's fast enough to make that relay, it'd be interesting. Yeah, it'd be interesting. So I think that is definitely important. And having that brotherly competition.
Yeah.
Obviously they want to see this. I'll tell this story real quick. We were up at Festus when they ran well in that opener.
Yeah.
And Barrett PR'd by quite a bit.
Yeah.
He was 48.3.
Yeah, he's 48 low, yeah.
He was like a 0.3 second PR, and that was his opener. Yeah. And I was like, hey, that's awesome. That's a good job.
Yeah.
And he wasn't really wanting to hear it. He was kind of frustrated with it because Blayne had beat him in that race.
And that's probably tough because, Barrett's older.
Yeah.
And the year before, they were in school together, and Barrett, the year before that, as a freshman, Barrett was the guy. And the year after that, Barrett is, like I looked at the finishes in some races, Barrett was tracking ahead of Blayne in most everything. And then, like you said, having that flip there at Festus probably tough for the ego a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I tried to explain it. I was like, man, you just opened up with 48.3. Your best ever is 48.6. There,
And like we talked about, that's like a second faster than the previous fastest man ever before you at Jackson High School.
And he said, I remember he told me, he said, no, coach, you don't understand. I was like, oh, well, please enlighten me. What, tell me what I don't understand. He said, that's my little brother. He said, I'll have to hear that for the rest of my life if he has a faster time than me. And I was like, there's nothing really I could,
Yeah.
his mind was pretty made up.
You could tell him I have pretty talented younger siblings as well. Yeah. Like my younger sibling was 2-hand dunking in the lane over people after not picking up a basketball for like 4 years.
Yeah, I knew
stuff like that.
Yeah, just thank goodness we weren't any closer in age. Yeah. But no,
that's got to be a good. I'm sure it can be annoying whenever an argument arises at home, but probably a pretty good way to push themselves to keep getting, dropping those times.
And we've got big plans for Barrett this coming year. So we're gonna get a good off season in the weight room and get some things rolling for him. I'd expect him to be down there right with him.
Yeah. I mean, going in senior year, I mean, like you said, I expect big things. And then, you mentioned your guys' 4x1 team made a state final. Mm-hmm. What happened with the 4x2 team? In postseason there.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to the conversation of if we wanted to see what our best shot was in, and then kind of trim the fat after that. So at the district meet, I think we won both the 4x1 and 4x2.
Yeah, I think you won both. Yeah.
Then we just kind of, our coaches had to make a decision looking at the times of what we expected everybody to be at in the state. 4x1 and 4x2 were crazy fast this year.
Yeah.
Last year, I believe 42.8 was all state in the 4x1.
Yeah.
And we went 42.1 and just barely made it in.
Yeah.
4x2 was even more competitive. I mean, I think it was Rockbridge went 125 4x2. So we were just kind of looking at our times like we don't want to do anything extra. There's a lot of the same kids that were on the 4x2 that were on the 4x1.
Right.
So we just kind of wanted to send it and put our best foot forward. And that's so we ended up we scratched the 4x2 at sectionals.
Okay. Yeah. And that's, I mean, you guys have a pretty good, couple relay teams there. How tough is that decision sometimes making between some of the guys on there? I mean, I know you probably just do it, it's track is easy at times when it comes to like being like, I'm putting this kid over you in something because it's the most basic sport there is. This kid runs faster than you. There you go.
Yeah, that's pretty well.
So that's got to be tough though. Making some of the cuts for you guys because you have Blayne and Barrett, who you want to obviously keep fresh to do big things once postseason comes. So there is a little bit more opportunity. But whenever you do want to get them into, I mean, that's two guys that are definitely going to be on any relay team you want to put them on. Yeah, and then you've got all these other guys. These young guys too, like we mentioned. Memphis Maddox, Jalen Hampton, Evan Turley, and just the entire football team of guys, the entire skill position there, the football team. But that'd be tough at times making cuts for some of those.
Evan and Jalen kind of went back and forth all season in the 100. So plugging them in for the third leg of the 4x1, we kind of exchanged them back and forth throughout the season. But it is objective in track. But at the same time, if you ran this time in these conditions and you ran this time in these conditions,
there can be some argument there. Yeah.
There can be some wiggle room there. But that's another deal. You're talking about Barrett and Blayne competing with each other. Well, all those three you just mentioned, Memphis and Evan and Jalen, they compete the same way. And you got to, if you're going to be competitive across the state, you have to compete, and that's in any sport. So we're very blessed to have that core group there that just want to go at it every day, and that's helped us out a lot.
And then my last actual question of coaching, stuff like that. Where are we at putting together a state champion 4x4 team? What are we looking at? I mean, we got two kids that are running 47. Just do some math here. We're like, what do we got? You can just look at what did they win the state title with? Yeah, we got these two kids
for sure.
Who do we need? Where do we need to be here? Where are we at on the state champion 4x4 team?
Couple 50 flats would help.
That would help.
50 flats for so.
Like I made that joke. I like looked into the camera a couple weeks. I'm like, I just need a couple of you to run 42, 41, 50 or 51, 52.
Yeah. It's we're just putting a couple more pieces together for the 4x4 would be.
This is where Brock Reagan big. Comes in. We get the third Reagan.
Come on. No, it's obviously throughout the season, if you're wanting to just score some points at conference or whatever, you've got two for sure that can run, but you got some other kids that are putting in some really good work.
Good deal.
Really good work. Excited to see how they progress next year.
And a lot of those guys are young too. Like we talked about. Sure. I mean, a lot of those guys I saw running, in the 400 open 400s where Blayne and Barrett weren't, in for you guys. I mean, a lot of those guys are all going to be back next year.
Yeah.
A lot of them are. So
so we're excited for it. It'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see, who's coming up, who can help us, who maybe didn't run this year, who thinks they can come and
in
be
sports
for us.
It's a motivating factor whenever you're good. Like kids want to come be a part of it, right? It's like, oh, my friend Blayne just won a state title. I want to hang out with that kid and have some of the good vibes kind of rub off on you. You see that a lot, when Jackson, first couple of years I was in high school when we were really, really bad at football, nobody was playing football.
Right.
Once we got Coach Eckley, It's like, oh, they won more games than they lost for the first time in a few years. Let's go check this out maybe a little bit. So
success.
The whole rising tides lifting all boats type thing.
Too. You know, you get some of your friends running track and they're running this time, and their friends at school maybe like, well, I think I can do this. Like, I think I can do that.
Hold on, I think I'm faster than this guy.
Hey, come on and do it.
Yeah, come prove it.
Come on and do
it. Track. This is why I talk about it all the time on here. Like, track is underappreciated maybe sometimes as far as coverage goes and things like that, because there's a lot of names and there's a lot and it's super long. The meets are. Track's the best. Okay. As an athlete, all of you people in high school still watching this, go run track. It's the most fun sport by far. It's so cut and dry. Mm-hmm. Your coaches are like, this is our workout plan. This is what we're doing. You just go do it. You're outside.
Short practices. Get to meet a lot of people.
You're just hanging out with every track meet. You're just hanging out with hundreds of people from all over. It's the most fun. Track teachers, cover your ears. You get out of school so much. Track meets are so long and they're far away. You get out of school so much. But yeah, no, track's the best. Track is like, that's why I say you said that, I appreciate the coverage before. I love track. It's one of my favorite sports to watch, which sounds insane to a lot of people I know, but it's a lot of fun. It's the most simple sport. Yep. It's basic. You don't have to understand a bunch of rules and stuff, or a bunch of, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it.
Yeah.
You just line them up and see who's the fastest.
Run faster.
It's whoever jumps higher, jumps further. It's what we've been doing since we were like 5 years old. It's very straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Yeah. But no, we appreciate the coverage. This is big. This is, I've talked, like I told you earlier, talked to a lot of people and they're very supportive of what you're doing. We appreciate it. I'm excited to see this grow.
Yeah.
And I know we were headed down to Albuquerque and some of the kids were watching your podcast in the hotel room. So they were, people are appreciating it and enjoying it.
I appreciate it, man.
Doing a good job with it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I do this not to be popular or anybody to know who I am. I do it because of these guys that we talk about. I do it because there's so many kids that are going to school for 8 hours and then they go run really hard for 2 more hours when it's 80, 90 degrees outside. And that's cool. That's impressive. That's really, it's neat to see. And it's neat to see those guys putting in the work. And then the ones that are even more exceptional, you see at times, you get to go watch them on the big stage. And it's really fun to watch. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate you coming by.
Yeah, appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for stopping by. We'll have to do it again sometime.
That sounds good.
Once we get a little closer to next year, whenever you're coaching one of your many other sports you might be into here coming up soon. We'll see what happens. So thank you guys for watching, listening. Appreciate it as always. Make sure to, like, subscribe, follow us everywhere. This will be coming out probably on whatever day this is. No, you're going to be watching Tuesday. Yeah. So hope you have a good rest of your week. Thank you to Ty Crowden for stopping by. As always, we will see you in the next one.